Hello, this is Dave with Patch, and today we're talking about numbers, and I have with me Mr. Ed Fava. Mr. Fava, welcome to the show, and let's talk a little bit about your background. We discussed briefly your history with working with kids. Discuss that for us, please.
Okay. I've been a principal for 30 years. I taught for 15. My background is special education and brain research. In doing that, I came up with a methodology I call imprinting. Mathematics is the culmination of learning numbers, but we don't teach numbers. My program is teaching numbers through colors. Anybody can learn this system, and then I can take you from kindergartners who in their spring program were actually doing algebraic equations in their head. You don't need pencil and paper. All you need to do is introduce children to colors that are all the way around them, and through numbers 1 through 10, and it's called Cuisenaire rods. That's what these are, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Is through metrics. Everything we do is tied together with what's around the children. I want them to make a correlation between numbers and colors. And through the numbers and colors, we then move ahead into writing equations. This is so simple that it's also difficult and intricate. But a parent can even do this with their child.
Right, and this is something that you've developed. You said
Yes.
you've had 30 years of being a principal, working with special education children and studying the part of the brain that helps with association and linking these patterns together, I guess, so to speak, using Cuisenaire rods. Now, I'm sure everybody's seen Cuisenaire rods at one point or another and didn't realize the usage, or at least the way you're using them, and how that can be incorporated to teach numbers, teach math, and help with those equations. And as you said, you're teaching for Patch. You taught this spring at the elementary school. Talk a little bit about some personal experience that you had at the elementary school where the light bulb went off.
In using colors, I ask a question to parents and children. What is the colors of your TV set? Is it black and white, or is it in color? It's in color. Our computers are in color. Our phones are in color. Color, we've taken our minds, if you want to call it this, our brains have taken a gigantic leap in the last 15 years. And now the brain is focusing on colors. It's looking for patterns.
Right.
And so using Cuisenaires, I create patterns, and I imprint them in the children. They think they're playing.
Right.
And really, the mind is now setting up inside roadways of how to come to solutions.
Right.
You don't need a $75 textbook. You don't need the complicated $350 teacher guide.
Right.
The kit themselves are very inexpensive, can be used in the house, and it's amazing the results. I have a kindergartner and first grader. I had very small classes because no one knew who I was and what I was doing. And everybody calls it math. No. The alphabet is for reading and writing, which we spend years embedding into children.
Right.
Numbers, we spend very little time embedding into them, and then we give them all different kinds of tools that really, in the brain, aren't similar.
Right.
This is consistent. They know from this point on that when you use Cuisenaires, it never changes. 10 colors, 10 numbers, 10 codes. Wow. And in doing that, I had kids who would look at me, walk down the hallway, these are kindergartners, and say, light green, red equals yellow. 5, Mr. Fava. Now the brain is going from left to right, right to left. We work with this, and it's fun. We don't use pencils and papers. We do use colored markers and on some paper, so we concretize what it feels like. We do a lot of touching. Art is a part of this program as well. You tie in art.
And I got to say, you've tied together multiple aspects of that. A through the Cuisenaire rods, through construction paper, through markers. And it was confusing for me at first because we had to find exactly the colors you needed, not only in paper but in markers, Cuisenaire rods. So, and once we discussed what you were trying to bring to the table, when you tied it all together, it made sense. So you're bringing together multiple canvases, so to speak, and then painting a picture, which is pretty extraordinary. It seemed after you talk about it and discuss it, it breaks down, makes it very simple, and it makes a lot of sense. You've had a lot of time working on this, so to go a little bit farther, at some point we'll switch over to the Cuisenaire rods themselves, and they'll make it a little simpler for people, I believe. But the next part of that.
And first of all, I do want to say, parents, this is nothing to be scared of.
Right.
I actually taught my mom when she was 68 years old metrics because she was going to actually cut something out and make a pattern.
Right.
Took her 20 minutes. You can learn it. Basically, the Cuisenaires are the colors. These are the tools that a engineer made in 1956 in Sweden for his son who was having mathematical problems.
Right.
Going way back, now I'm going to jump to the future. Children look at this and they understand it. Mm-hmm. It's not a trick, and there's red is red and it never changes.
Right.
A blue is a blue and orange. So the 10 basic colors we deal with are there around them. I'm just waking them up to it.
Yep.
But it's neat when a child walks down the hall and says, that's a 7, and that's a 9, and that's a 2, and that's a 3. And I'm asking the little kids now, like the children I'm working with, I want you to add the colors and give me a number.
Yeah.
Then I'll switch. Here are 2 numbers. Give me the color.
Yep.
And it's switching back and forth. It's amazing how long they can retain this for. And I wasn't doing it every single day.
Yeah.
I only had them for 40 minutes.
Roughly one day a week.
One day a week.
Yeah, and then I've heard you in the summer program. You're working with here in our summer program. You and your group going down the hall. What is this? Everybody says red. Red is a 2. And what is this? White. White is 1. What's red plus white? And then they'll add it up, and they're starting to do it in their head.
Yes.
And that's pretty impressive to see.
If this program is initiated in pre-K or K, imagine how much farther ahead in understanding mathematics.
Right.
This is the beginning of how to understand. How do you add, subtract? We do it, and I don't tell them what they're doing. It becomes an automatic.
Yep.
Because 5 plus 3 is different than 3 plus 5. Right. How many ways can we break down a 6? And we do it in colors.
Yeah.
And I can show them how to do that.
Let's switch over to the Cuisenaire rods, and you can explain those a little bit. We have that shot here in the studio, courtesy of Sina.
Okay, that's okay right there.
Yep.
We start with what I call with the children the universal 1. It's white.
It's on that camera.
It's white. There you go. It's white. The universal 1. All numbers begin with that. Then we go red. Red is 2. Light green.
I'll slide you over.
Light green is 3. Purple is 4. Yellow is 5. Dark green is 6. Black is 7. Brown is 8. Blue is 9. Orange is 10. That is all the numbers that we use, 1 through 10. So they master the colors. And all the time that they're working with these, I have them play with them because we learn through connections. Our dendrites must connect through touch. So they're always touching these, which is part of the learning system. Next that you do, we build with them. And I'm just going to do it real quick. I'm going to take a 5. And now, that is a 2 and a 3. And they're breaking that down. So it's breaking down into different sets. These are sets. Now we also use, in the classroom, a meter stick. It's metric, 1 through 100. And we learn about centimeters and decameters, millimeters. But this is what we use. You cannot use the standard format. We use the metric. And this is their mini computer. They can add, subtract, multiply, and divide first graders and kindergartners with this stick. It's amazing. Just don't tell them what they're doing. Yeah. And then it becomes automatic later on. This is for them to draw upon.
And that's something that I think is very important. And you mentioned a couple of things. One, they get to touch these because
Yes.
building the tactile sense, letting
Yes.
the kids be hands-on,
Always.
it's very important because it's no longer virtual. I know it's all the craze now to go to computers and to work in the virtual world and have everything digital. But when you sit down a little guy or gal and you say, hold these, play with them, make your own arrangements, having them have a tactile sense helps tremendously. Especially if they're special education and need a little bit of a learning jump there, that can be huge for them. And it's the same thing as you said. This is a calculator essentially.
Yes.
And once you learn that, and without scaring them and saying, "Oh, this is multiplication or division or whatever it may be," you can just say, "Use your calculator and add it up." They take to it so much better without that fear and trepidation.
We never use our fingers.
Yeah.
Because that's a fallback for students. So never using your fingers. Your hands are always above. I watch what everybody's doing. And then it's a sort of a game we play. I play to the right side, then I play to the left side. But every day, they pick these up, and I want them to roll it in their hands. Even the advanced students, I want them to get a feel for the size. I want to put it in their hand and say, what color is in your hand now? And now they're sort of guessing. Yeah, it's a 3. That feels like a 3, a light green. The connections that you're making all the time. And I can't say how easy this is. I'm going to take a jump step. This is so simple compared to what's the current math program? It's called the Common Core that all parents are having a terrible time with. This would take you 15 minutes.
Right.
But we make games out of it. We play war. We play, there's another game where you try to match the colors that you can't see along with numbers.
And you've incorporated a lot of tools. You have die that are
yes, for James.
Unmarked die, unmarked playing cards, and you incorporate the same lessons in fun games.
Yes.
So you're reiterating and reteaching the same basic principles.
All different ways.
Constantly, yeah.
So that if I'm not getting you through this, I will get you through that modality. And it is working out so well that I love it when I walk through the hallways and students are now looking at colors everywhere.
Yeah.
What does that color equal? Or what does your shirt equal? For instance, a 9 and a 1 equals orange. Orange is 10. And that's how they're thinking about it. He has red, that's 2. Use yellow, that's 5. And now we come back and we say to them, how much did that person have in numbers on them? And we start putting them on the Cuisenaire rod, the meter stick. And all of a sudden, this learning is happening all the time.
Yep.
So for 20 minutes or 45 minutes, it's ongoing. However, after 15, I get them up, and we walk the hallways, because every student needs to get to move around and breathe a little bit.
Yes.
But then they're eager to come back and start this again. We use very little paper.
Yep.
It's all manipulatives and through games, and that's how I believe kids learn and have fun.
And you've had great results. We always evaluate our programs. We talk with our parents. We talk with our students. Just to give you an example, at the elementary school, you had a young lady that wanted to come on days that weren't her class days. But she showed up with her box of Cuisenaire rods and said, "I'm here for Mr. Fava's class. I don't want to go to this other class that I'd signed up for. I want to go back to the math or numbers class again so I can have fun and continue to learn." And she was seeing success in the class. And that's why. And we talked to a couple of our parents, and they really liked it, and that led to having you work here in the summer to continue. Because we have students that are making up ground and or staying at level, which is the goal for some of the parents, and that's pretty important.
I'd love to have an evening to where parents could come on and with their students.
Yeah.
Any parent of the ages of pre-K, K, 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
I found that after 3rd grade, going into 4th, it's a different thought process because they have been embedded with the core math, and the understanding becomes a little bit more difficult. Yeah. I like to have a clean slate, and from that point, boom. And parents, if they understand this,
right,
they can play the games in the car. They can talk about it. They can make their own. And you'll find that your students, their numbers lead to better math skills.
Right. The understanding and comprehension will come through this process. And
sometimes ask a student what 6 is.
Yeah.
And they don't know.
Yeah.
They can say 6, They can count to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
But they can't say it's a light green, and start dissecting it down into what I call the universal one.
Right. And you're right. They don't have the comprehension or the understanding of association with anything.
Yes.
So it's just a blank out there for them.
They memorize.
Yeah.
This is not memorized. Remember, we're hitting all senses all the
Right.
time. If I could have them eat them, I would. That's another thing. But that would not be very good for the digestive tract.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is session 1 of numbers with Mr. Fava. We will be back with another video, and we'll get a little more in-depth, and we'll talk a little bit more about parent interaction and the importance of that. So if you have any questions, contact us here at the Patch office, 927-8047, or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/patch21, and we'll have information on there as well. And as always, this show is produced by A&M Digital Technologies, bringing technology and education to the forefront. So, Mr. Fava, thank you. We'll be back with another number session.
And just one little thing. Don't forget about the fall session.
Yes, coming into fall. This will be very important. We'll talk about that in the next video and how you can get involved as a parent, make sure your child gets involved, and what they can look forward to. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Fava.
Thank you.
And we'll be
I
back.
Appreciate it. Thank you.